We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
All right, we are back for our third and final segment of today's show. As promised, we've got George Shepard with us this morning. He is the publisher and the founder of two distinct and unique magazines. And the first of the magazines that he's put out is called Republic Magazine, and that is a magazine that covers a lot of political topics and very, very much in line with the general way of thinking of this show and our listeners. The second is Survivalist Magazine, also very much in line with our way of thinking in terms of self-reliance, self-sufficiency, and the ability to take care of yourself and your family in times of trouble. So good morning, George. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Thanks for joining with us this morning. I know this is early for you. Where are you physically located?
We're out in Florida right now.
Oh, okay, great. So you've got nice weather, and we've got this garbage weather, and we're just sick of it, frankly. We're waiting for some warmer weather to warm our gardens. We've been caught in this cold snap that's blowing across the United States, and you're far enough south where it's not really affecting you. So tell us a little bit about Survivalist Magazine, if you would, because that, to me, is a favorite topic. I love the idea of folks being prepared and being able to take care of themselves in a pinch, whether that pinch is something as simple as a storm that blows through for a couple of days, or whether it's something as big as that Sandy storm where 6 months later folks still don't have a place to live, or whether it's something more impacting.
Well, there's so many different aspects to talk about when it comes to this subject, whether it's a natural or man-made disaster. Every person on this planet at some point in their life, maybe multiple times, are going to go through a life-changing event. And that could be one of the disasters that happens, say, for example, just a tornado or a hurricane,
right,
an earthquake. I mean, these are things that happen every single year all over the country. And most people are just not prepared for it. My wife has always told me, she said, because I never used to live in Florida, I just recently relocated here, and she said, you have to get your gas way early, because as soon as there's a notification about a hurricane coming, like, you won't even get close to a gas station. There'll be lines down the street.
Good point.
And the same thing with water. I was like, no way. They're not going to go to Costco and clean out, like, pallets of water. Mm-hmm. And I was so shocked when I went there. I mean, this hurricane was still a week away. I went there, and it was nothing. I mean, literally nothing. I've never seen a store so empty that had so much grocery and so much food. And that really hit home and said, wow, people are just not prepared, because we were prepared. We didn't really have to worry about it. But going there and just seeing all the mayhem and chaos, I realized that there's just so many people that are underprepared. And that also drove home the other aspect of, do you want to let other people know that you're prepared in the event of a disaster? That's kind of a bone of contention with a lot of survivalists.
Right.
Just kind of keeping it covert and kind of keeping it under the table.
Exactly.
Because you really don't want people coming knocking on your door.
Saying, right, I know you got 400 gallons of water in there. I want some.
Exactly.
I use a phrase all the time with our listeners that, you have to be prepared, but more importantly, you have to be silent about your preparations, because, in a time of real crisis, the guy that you had dinner with on Friday night, who you and he sat out on the front porch and talked about movies and had a beer, that's the same guy that will kill you 10 days later for a can of beans in your pantry because his kids are hungry. And, people I don't think they realize how fast we descend into pretty animalistic behavior when we're out of the basic necessities of food and water. And, this is a perfect example of why, your magazine is so successful, because people need, and we've lost a lot of the survival skills that are naturally inherent to us over the years with the idea that you can just run out to the store and buy bottled water, And I don't think most people realize how important drinking water is, and when you don't have any, it's too late to start thinking about storing it then, right?
Right. Don't dig the well, or don't wait to dig the well when you're thirsty. That's
exactly
the thing that's always stuck with me.
You ain't going to make it. So
Exactly.
talk about a little bit about food as well, because I think people think that I think the statistic for average Americans is that they've got like 3 days of food in their pantry, and that's including like saltine crackers.
Those get you through a pinch, let me tell you.
I know, but when that's all that's left, you start loading up the family rifle and going to looking for the guy who has been stocking away other food, right?
Well, wherever you're located at, you have to take a look at the basic necessities. And this is almost like a military person would look at their surroundings, or a law enforcement person has been trained to pick up on little things around them, whether it's the person that's down the street,
sure,
or just the situation of what's going on.
Situational awareness, right?
Exactly. And when we first moved here to Florida, one of my thoughts was, number one is I want to be a place that I feel comfortable knowing that if there's a disaster, typically a hurricane, I want a little bit of notification. With an earthquake, it's like you don't get any information. That's what we did that in California before. And second thing is I want to be in a place where I can grow food year-round. So I didn't want to be in a cold environment where we could be in that kind of situation. And if I needed to get out of Dodge and leave the country for some reason, if things got really, really bad here and they start rounding people up and throwing us on boxcars, which has been talked about quite a bit, then I want to be out of here very fast with my family. So these are the things that I started thinking about situationally. But even more than that, when I had to say, okay, I'm going to go for this particular location, then I started thinking, okay, what do I need around me? Well, I need some place where I can grow food. That means I need to have some ground. I need to have some land at least. So apartment dwelling is not the best place. And if you do apartment dwelling, you have to consider hydroponics or aquaponics so that you can grow a sustainable food supply if you don't have enough stored up.
Right.
Then also you want to take a look at water. You don't have to have 400 gallons of stored water. What you do need, though, is you need a way of filtering that water so that it can be drinkable. And there's some really amazing products. A Brita is not going to do it for you. A Brita is just going to kill you. But there's some products out there that have their ceramic filters, and they'll take nearly everything out of it that's harmful to you. And that way you don't have to carry around 400 pounds of water if you have to bug out or whatever you need to do.
Right. Every member of my family has that life straw. And I tell you, I mean, that may not be the way you want to continue on a long-term basis, but boy, for short-term pinches, that is, it's something you can literally slip in a pocket. It's that small. It weighs nothing, and it adds nothing to your kit, if you will. And yet, it may be the one thing that saves your life, because you can drink dirty water right out of a puddle with that thing.
Exactly. And there's some other products too that are they're water bottle type products. There's one that's made by Just Water that I recently picked up. We just did a review on it, or we're going to be doing a review on it in the next issue of Survivalist magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm using it every single day. And it's got it looks like a water bottle you take to the gym, and it's got a hanging ceramic water filter in it. And I'm putting it through its paces, on an everyday basis, just making sure that this is something that if we promote in the magazine saying it's a great product, we want to make sure that we've done our research. So that's an amazing little product, and you can fill up from any stream or stuff that just looks stagnant.
Right. I have a bottle from Berkey that's similar to that. But I always long for that Katahdin ceramic filter, but it's like $300, and it's a very, very expensive water filter. Of course, it filters, 30,000 gallons or some astronomical number, which means it's probably good forever. But that ceramic and silver impregnated ceramic filter, I think, is the way to go. Of course, they're just they're salty, but
exactly.
But these bottles that you're talking about, I mean, as for a quick down and dirty, get yourself some hydration. They're perfect for that, and they are the kind of thing that it's not just a question of like the Life Straw being able to drink while you're there. You can actually take some with you, so drink your fill while you're there, and then bring some with you for later.
Exactly. Now, you touched on something, too, about food, and that's something that we haven't really gotten into yet. But when you start stockpiling food, the recommendation that we have is an absolute minimum of 6 months worth of food, because it's going to take you 6 months to figure out what's going on next. Maybe let the chaos die down a little before you figure out if you have to stay or move. But in my opinion, we've actually stocked up for 2 years, just because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
Now, with food, I mean, an average standard closet of a bedroom will give you about a year's worth of food supply for a family, a small family, I should say, family of 2, maybe 3 people.
Right.
So you got to really consider, well, where are you going to put this stuff if you're going to get freeze-dried food? And when you get freeze-dried food, you got to think about, you have to have enough water to hydrate that food.
Sure.
Because that's what a lot of people don't think. They think that, it's like trying to rehydrate crackers. You
Right.
have to have water in order to make it something that's, number one, going to taste like food, and number two is it's going to have to be just rehydrated so you can actually eat it.
Sure.
So there's a lot of these things people need to consider, too, when it comes down to just what kind of food you want to store. My recommendation for a lot of people is to split your food supply up into having sprouts. Sprouts are live food. They don't take up a whole lot of space. You can put a year's worth of supply of sprouts to eat in a 6-gallon bucket. And it looks like a painter's bucket, so you can kind of hide it anywhere if
Right.
you want to in your garage. Just keep it in a cool, dry place. And that can supplement your food supply really quick, and it also saves a ton of space and gives you that live food option that doesn't need rehydration. It just needs a little bit of water to grow.
Right, sure. But you have to, you've got to have an alternative food source, and preferably something that's renewable. That's, part of the problem is I think a lot of folks think, well, I'll go out there and I'll buy a bunch of, freeze-dried food. But, the idea of being able to have a renewable food source with sprouts and things like that is invaluable.
Exactly. Heirloom seeds are real important as well, and not just for being able to grow your own food, but also for barter. There are going to be people with larger stretches of land that are going to look for some sort of a sustainable system.
Right.
That not only for their family, but this turns into a business afterwards, because you're going to need other things. You can't just survive on what you can get out of a garden.
On gold and ammo?
Exactly.
You can't eat either of those things. I agree with you that the idea of seeds and having a seed survival kit, not only for your own use but for barter and other things, is probably an extraordinarily valuable tool that most people are overlooking. And I encourage our audience all the time. We have a couple of sponsors. One of them is White Harvest Seed Company, and we just did an interview with Baker Seed the other day and Baker Creek Seeds. And, we encourage our folks to always use heirloom here and to keep a supply on hand for exactly that purpose. So we're going to take a quick break. Can you stick with us, George?
Absolutely.
Great. When we come back, I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about Survival Magazine, but then I'd also like to touch base with you on the Republic side of things. Okay. Folks, we'll be back in just a minute. We're speaking this morning with George Shepard, the publisher and the founder of Survivalist magazine. You can find that website at survivalist.com, and also the other magazine called Republic Magazine, and that can be found at republicmagazine.com. We'll be right back.
Finding quality child care is important. Do you know the questions to ask?
Are children supervised at all times?
Does the staff know first aid and CPR?
Be child care aware. Just call Child Care Aware of Missouri at 1-866-892-3228 or log on to mo.childcareaware.org.
How many children are being cared for?
Does this child care program have an emergency plan?
Finding the right child care could be one of the biggest decisions any parent will ever make. Let us help. Valuable information for parents as well as child care providers is available online and on the phone, and it's all free.
Have all the child care providers gone through a background check?
Have they had proper child care training?
The questions you need answered. The answers you've been looking for. Call Child Care Aware of Missouri at 1-866-892-3228 or log on to mo.childcareaware.org. Be child care aware.
All right, folks, we're on with George Shepard. Again, George is the founder and the publisher of Survivalist.com and also RepublicMagazine.com. These are two different publications that are near and dear to my heart and are right in line with the type of thing that we talk about here on this program every day. Self-reliance, self-sufficiency, political awareness, political activism. And, our tagline here is educate, inform, motivate, and activate. And that covers all of these aspects. You should be educating and informing yourself and those in your circle of influence about what they need to be able to do to be self-reliant and self-sufficient, while simultaneously educating yourself about what your politicians are doing to you, not for you, because they aren't doing anything for you, trust me. But they are doing lots to you. And that... part one is be educated about what's going on around you politically, and then part two is being prepared to survive it when, they've reached the culmination of their program and plan, right? So, George, thank you very much for joining with us again. The survivalist aspect of this thing is critically important, but our goal is always to kind of educate our consumer or our listeners about, not only what they are consuming and things like that, but to be also active politically, to try to drive change, even though sometimes it feels like, it's hopeless, if you will. We created a project here called Restore Missouri that says, let's clean up our own state first and then worry about the federal government, because it's already beyond salvage for all intents and purposes, right?
Right.
And, we can make political change at home in our own states that essentially build a firewall or a buffer or a bulwark around that state that says, we have the right to nullify laws and things like that that are really not in the best interest of our nation or our state. And, like here in Missouri, we're just about to pass the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which nullifies all federal gun laws, period, and including the 68 and 1939 Gun Control Acts. And, basically stating that the federal government has no purview in our state. That's it. And, we're an independent, sovereign state, and we have the right to do as we choose here. And, federal law does not supersede independent state law, which is a co-equal version of government. And your Free Republic, or your Republic magazine kind of leans along that. And I know you've got a newsletter out there that I would encourage our listeners to sign up for. So can we touch base on the Republic side of things for a moment?
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about what got you started on that side of things, and kind of give us an overview and a background on that.
Well, back in 2007, I think it was January of 2007, I was just messing around on YouTube. I was sitting at my desk late at night one day, and I found this thing on the income tax. And I kind of knew this because I did a little research in the past beforehand, but I'd never seen a documentary like the one that Aaron Russo put out about freedom of fascism.
How did I know it was going to be Aaron Russo's? That was a wake-up call for more Americans, that particular strip. But go ahead.
It totally changed my life. I sat there for about 2 hours or so and watched this video. My wife was like, "You going to come to bed?" I was like, I'll be there. I'm pretty good at digging in the dirt and finding information about people. And I found Aaron's contact information. And I called him up. I said, "Hey, man, you just totally inspired me, and what can I do? I'm ready to dedicate my life to this." And this was on a whim, and I was like, just so inspired by his movie.
Amazing.
And he, it took me a couple of weeks to get back to me on it, but when he did, I started working with Gary Franchi, which is at that time he was running or heading up the Restore the Republic group. And I started talking to him about some of my background and said, "Hey, there's not really a magazine out there for the subject. We should do something that's high gloss print." Professionally done so that we can add some validity to this message. Since people really look at the packaging of things these days, whether or not it's true,
sure,
it's all about the packaging.
It lends credibility.
Exactly. So I said, "Hey, look, you want to do this?" He said, "I think it's a great idea. Go ahead and do it." So with Aaron's blessing, I started working with Gary on things, and we created this magazine. We launched it July 4th, 2007, and it came out in digital format for the first 2 weeks as we were ramping things up, and we sent an email out and said, "Hey, guys, if you want a print subscription to this, here we go." And we launched that thing out, and it's just been amazing ever since.
Gotcha. So at this point, you're distributing this nationally, right?
It's interesting about the Republic. The Republic, what I've seen in the last few years is people's willingness to get involved in political issues has waned quite a bit with the apathy. Which I think is a shared sentiment for a lot of people. We can't fix this problem. And we saw our newsstand sales start to drop, and we decided to go digital with publication, which was a smart idea, because a lot of magazines will just keep on pumping money into things.
Right.
Like a house that's underwater, they'll just keep pumping money into it.
Ask the New York Times all about that.
There you go.
They'll keep you occupied for hours.
So we decided to go digital with this and make it available to the world much cheaper because it was costing us a crazy amount of money to produce this magazine.
Right.
But we ran an article about the first 100 things to disappear in a collapsed environment, and that got us starting to think about survivalism and survivalists, and that people are starting to lean towards that shift.
Sure.
That's where survivalists really started. That's where it got its roots. From that one article we ran in Republic magazine.
Which is amazing, because what that tells you is that people have already recognized that the federal government is too far gone for salvage, and they now are looking for the alternative solution of, okay, we know it's coming down. What do we do next? It's scary, but it's true.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's a sentiment that we kind of share as well. We believe that there needs to be a reset. You know how your computer sometimes just gets goofy? You got to just push that button and hold it down, knowing that you're going to lose your work. But ultimately, when it resets, it's going to be better for those of you that are on the grid and still have a computer.
It's interesting the way you couch that, because I use that analogy all the time. We need to press the giant reset button, and I've put out an article which I'll share with you. I'll email it to you. It's called 90 Days That Will Change the World. And July 4th, I'm actually calling for our listening audience and anybody else nationwide that has the chutzpah to do it, to literally just stop paying all of our bills, stop paying our banks, stop paying taxes, and put the federal and state governments under siege, and literally force them to capitulate. Because we're at the point now where either we disrupt their plans or we allow their plans to come to full fruition, at which point it's we're going to have no alternative but to deploy the mutually assured destruction principle of the Second Amendment. I mean, I don't see where else it can go. There's no more political room to maneuver here.
I agree.
So you created Republic magazine. Now it's all digital, as I'm assuming, right?
Right.
And so what, is this published once a month?
Right now we're doing a lot more on our website, therepublicmagazine.com. We're updating it daily with news stories, talking about the things that are real prominent as far as out there in the world, but people in the region need to know about. The spins that are being put on things, we're taking the spin off of it and showing them what they really should be paying attention to with that subject matter.
Right.
We may or may not be coming back out with a magazine in the way that it was previously. We might just go with this news resource, kind of like Drudge Report, kind of like
sure.
Any of those news magazine websites.
Right.
Because we feel like that might be the way things are going. People are looking on their mobile devices a little bit more readily.
Yep.
So we're testing that out right now with Republic, whereas survivalists, since people are getting off the grid, they don't have computers in a lot of cases, so we have to continue to do that in a print format, not just a digital format.
Got it. And that makes sense. One of the taglines that I use here all the time is, we are delivering truth over mainstream propaganda every day. And I think that's part of the problem. Is so much. I mean, that news story came out the other day that 42% of Americans don't even realize Obamacare is the law. And when you hear a number like that, you're like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, where are these people living? What kind of rocks do they live under?
Yeah, but they know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's staggering to me that America is as blind and as dumb as they actually are as to what's really happening around them.
They don't know anything about Obamacare, but they know all about what the Kardashians did last week.
Yeah, well, that's Mike Walters, one of our fellows in here, comes in on Saturdays. So your magazine on the digital side, or the Republic side, this is leaning more and more and more towards online articles, and also kind of like linking to stories that are out on other blogs and things like that, right?
Correct.
Are you publishing your own information as well? Your own stories?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of it that's our own. We have full-time writers and staff that go through information that's being released in the news on a daily basis, and then we pull out the stuff that's really of importance. And again, we push the Kardashian stuff to the side and go after the stuff that really makes sense for people. And they need to know this.
Right.
We get that out there.
I got a couple of articles I'll submit to you.
All right.
I write stuff up on our blog all the time. So you've got Facebook pages out there. Can you give us what those Facebook pages are so our listeners can go out there and join your fans?
Well, you can look up Complete Survivalist on Facebook.
Okay. So that would be facebook.com/Complete Survivalist.
I believe so. It might also just be /Survivalist. We have a few Facebook pages out there for that.
I got you.
And for Republic Magazine, I believe it's Republic Magazine.
Yep. And so that would be facebook.com/Republic Magazine. I'll make sure that I contribute to your growing audience this afternoon. So I see you got articles out there about this Boston manhunt being a dress rehearsal for martial law, fusion centers and how they're being utilized or twisted to manipulate the American populace and subjugate us with all of this surveillance and monitoring and all the other stuff that's going on. I think it's amazing that Americans are as asleep as they are. So when we come back, if we could just kind of get an update on what's involved with us, working together with you in reference to our audience wanting to participate in your magazine with either the digital subscription or I noticed that you got back issues and things like that available. If we could touch on that would be great.
Sure, absolutely.
So, okay, folks, we're going to take a break. We're speaking this morning with George Shepard, the publisher and the founder of Survivalist magazine and Republic magazine. We'll be back in just a moment.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Officials in Newtown, Connecticut are wrestling with the question of what to do about the site of the massacre.
The task force must decide whether the building should be renovated or demolished and a new school put in its place.
Fox Radio's Karen McHugh. In southern Afghanistan, an IED attack has killed 5 International Security Assistance Force service members. Reuters reporting they are Americans. This as the Taliban launches their annual spring offensive. And more details out on the investigation into the Boston Marathon bombing investigation.
Tamerlan Tsarnaev's widow, Catherine Russell, is assisting investigators, according to sources, but she also apparently spoke to her fugitive husband on the phone after the marathon bombing and sent him an email with an attachment which may have contained the FBI's wanted poster containing her husband's picture.
Fox's Peter Ducey in Boston. Fox News. We report, you decide.
I'd like to thank our sponsor, Wits End Classic Barbershop, who is the sponsor of our telephone lines this morning. They're located on the square in West Plains. It's Wits End Classic Barbershop. Thanks to our friends over at West Plains Pawn and Gun. You can find them on the web at westplainspawn.com. They can be reached at 417-256-3000, and they're located on Route 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. 400 guns undercover. Pizza Hut, our friends down there on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. They have an outstanding lunch menu with salad, pizza, and pasta. Excellent opportunity for you to have a great lunch and eat well and something tasty. Our friends over at the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue. You can find them on the web at batterystation.com. Telephone 417-257-7799. Our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance can be found on the web at ozarkmtnselfreliance.com. My friend Brian there can be reached at 870-492-4030. They're located a half mile east of Walmart at 3225 Route 62, Mountain Home. My friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She's right off the square in West Plains at 2 Evans Arcade, and you can reach her at 255-2253. And my friend Bill Stone over at Stone Construction. If you're considering doing remodeling, custom or new construction, or anything like commercial, give Bill a call and have him bid on your project at 293-0116.
If you're looking for a new or used pistol, shotgun, or rifle, West Plains Pawn & Gun has over 450 firearms in stock. All your favorite models like Beretta, Glock, Smith & Wesson, Kimber, and many, many more. West Plains Pawn & Gun is also a Class 3 arms dealer, so if they don't have it on the shelf, West Plains Pawn & Gun can order it for you. Even those hard-to-get guns. West Plains Pawn & Gun, 1713 U.S. Highway 160 West in West Plains, or online at westplainspawn.com.
News Talk 107 The Point weather sponsorships are available for your business marketing plans. Contact Cody or Josh at 255-2548 for more information.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, we have a flood watch in some areas. Otherwise, chance of rain and snow before 9. Then a chance of rain between 9 and 5. Chance of drizzle after that with a high near 49 degrees. I'm Dawn James, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
You've heard the saying, less is more. Well, when it comes to tires, more is less. More traction means less stress on the road. And now through May 31st at Don's Auto Service during the Goodyear Get More, Stress Less event, you can get up to $80 by mail-in rebate plus traction for a confident ride when you purchase a set of 4 select Goodyear or Dunlop tires. The Goodyear Assurance Triple Tread offers all-season traction plus enhanced wet traction. See all the Assurance family of tires at Don's Auto Service, Goodyear Tire and Service, 1618 Porter Wagoner, West Plains, 417-256-2752.
All right, we're back, and again, we are having a discussion this morning, and we are speaking with George Shepard. He is the publisher and the founder of both Survivalist magazine, which can be found on the web at survivalist.com, and also Republic magazine, which can be found at republicmagazine.com. I'd like to have our folks sign up for both of your magazines, and so you have a digital edition for both, and they can literally just go on there and subscribe to the digital version, correct?
Correct. We actually have an archive, which is kind of neat. So on our websites, both of them, Survivalist.com and Republic Magazine,
right,
you can go and you actually get all the back issues of the both publications. We do something a little different. We don't try to cover current events as much as we try to cover the events that just keep on coming back up. They're timeless issues.
Right.
So really, every issue of the magazine in its in previous issues, they're all still relevant today.
Sure.
So you get access to all that, and we knew that they were going to go out of print. So we started this, a few years back, coming up with the idea of how can we make this information still readily available to people. So you can go in there and actually get access to our entire archive. Most of those archives come with additional resources, such as, I think, Republic, we have like 60 podcasts we did with all these experts, which is really great. And with Survivalist, we have 18 plus survival guides and a survival community. So once you get signed up for that, it's actually like $9 a month. It's really cheap. And then you get access to everything.
I love that.
Just about that much for a single issue almost these days when you put tax on it.
Sure.
So that gives people just as much information as you possibly can. You can print from those guides. You can print from the magazine. So if there's certain stories you want to save or pass around, share with people in your workplace, you can print them right there on the computer, and you can save them as well. So it's not just digital only. You can also save this information in print, so that if you're worried about the grid going down and computer systems not working, this way at least you've got that backup as well. And of course, you can get the print version of the magazine as well.
Gotcha. Now you also have you also do these webinars, which I find interesting because we stream our show live every day, and a lot of our folks catch our show, especially if they're outside of our normal broadcast area geographically. They capture our show because they watch it streaming live every day. And we do it Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 in the morning, repeats 8 to 9 at night, and then on Saturday we do a 3-hour show, which is this morning. And that runs from 6 to 9. And a lot of our listeners, capture this show, and they're coming from places like Michigan, and we're in Missouri, right? So they're coming to us from Michigan and Florida and New Jersey and Texas and California and Colorado and places like that. We've got, I've of course got analytics on the website, and I can see where all these places are that are watching the show live. And it's amazing how many people have found us. I don't even know how they found us, but they did. And so we found that streaming service is awesome for us. And it's a product that we offer to other radio hosts as well if they're interested in streaming their own live shows. And it really, really is a very, very effective tool to help get the word out, especially in broadcast radio where, if you're not syndicated or you're not picked up in a certain market, they can still listen to you. So we really think that, the webinar thing that you're doing might be a great way for folks to learn about some of these things and actually hear from specific guests that you've got. I see you had one here on a panel discussion on the elections, and another one that you did on the un-American genocidal complex. And, I think that's important for Americans to be aware of exactly how far our government has slipped,
Right.
So what else in reference to Survivalist magazine are you folks doing? Do you actually run any kinds of classes or anything along those lines?
Yes, actually, we just launched a program. It was a class. We opened up registration, closed it for a program called Pure Survival, which was pretty much everything you need to know about survivalism.
I get a lot of requests from our listening audience for this kind of thing. So if it's something that these people can travel to, just kind of give us an overview on that.
Well, the beautiful thing about it is it's streamed online.
Oh, so even better.
You can watch it anonymously, and you can watch it in your PJs if you want to. As much as you want, you go back and rewind it and those types of things. Now, again, that registration opens and closes when we actually run that course. We're going to be launching a course here shortly, a short course on reloading ammunition and proper gun care, which is going to be, it's coming straight from the Pure Survival course, but we're going to pull that one out because we get a lot of requests for that particular subject.
Gotcha.
A lot of people are buying guns right now, and they've never shot a gun, they have no clue how to handle a gun, really.
Sure.
They don't know what to buy if they're looking to buy. So we're trying to educate people so that, number one, there's less accidents that could possibly happen, and number two, you know how to use it when you need to use it, unfortunately.
Right.
Hopefully
And it's in preparation for its use, right? Because a dirty gun is not really exactly what you want in a pinch.
It's a hammer. A dirty gun is a hammer. That's it.
Absolutely. And if you don't think gun cleaning is important, folks, just talk to anybody in the military who's, surrounded by dust and dirt all the time over in the Middle East, and they'll correct you on that real quick.
Exactly.
Off-grid energy, let's talk a little bit about that, because I know a lot of Americans are feeling like, especially if they're in suburban marketplaces or places where, they're limited by the utilities that are available to them, to natural gas and electricity, which has to be pumped into the house. They don't have fireplaces. They don't have any kind of way to be able to even keep their homes warm, much less, electrified, right? What's your thoughts on the different methods of off-grid energy out there? Because we hear about solar and we hear about all these different methods, and we have a fellow that we've done some shows with who manufactures a steam engine, believe it or not, and another guy, he actually does another class about how you can make your own alcohol to be used as a fuel. What's your thoughts on some of those different methods?
Well, a lot of it depends on what you're going to need the energy for, as far as what you want to choose. If if you live in an environment, say like the very cold environment, you obviously need energy for heat.
Sure.
The energy that you're going to choose in Florida is probably not going to be the same, or might not be the same energy that you would choose, say, in Minnesota or Michigan or any of the upper Midwest states.
Right.
Where it's really, really cold. So you just have to take a look at that, number one. So solar actually is a great way of powering devices, and it's fairly inexpensive. If you get small solar things, you can charge batteries with them. But I would say this, you need to learn how to make your own batteries, more importantly, because batteries will eventually fail, and you charge them enough times, you know how they start to lose their life.
Right.
You can learn how to replace those parts inside of a battery, how to make a battery, which we've done articles actually on how to make your own battery, how to make your own generators.
How cool is that? Yeah.
So that's number one thing, is how do you make your energy usage sustainable? Because things are going to break down, things are going to get goofed up. Solar panels will break. You will have problems with those. They're kind of expensive to fix, if you can even find parts. So you need to know how to do this stuff instead of just buying solar panels and putting them up and then, that's it. That's really not it. There's a lot of other things to it.
Sure.
I would consider wind energy, if you lived in a place where there's quite a bit of wind, being a very sustainable version of energy, because it's easy, it's kind of out of the way, and there's plenty of it.
I think a big problem with a lot of folks, though, is the cost of those systems. Solar and wind are expensive systems to install, and at least initially, and the investment that's required up front to get into some of those is very, very steep, especially if you're going to try to make it, a replacement for what you're normally doing plugged into the grid, right? So what kind of suggestions do you have for those people that are looking for, a supplemental form of wind or electricity?
Learn how to do it yourself. We actually do a lot of how-to articles in Survivalist magazine. One of them was how to build a wind generator, a wind turbine. And it's not, if you go out commercially and you buy commercial stuff, yes, absolutely it's going to be expensive, because there's several people in the supply chain that need to make money.
Right.
But these principles of how this stuff works is what you need to learn. This is about self-sufficiency.
Right.
It's almost the same thing as
which means it doesn't come in a box.
Exactly. Do you want to wait to go get the food from the store, or do you want to learn how to grow it?
Right.
Same thing with the energy. Do you want to just wait for someone to come fix your air conditioner, or do you want to learn how to fix it yourself when you need it, or whatever that situation might be? So I would say looking at what's around you is going to be the best way of choosing what kind of an off-grid power solution you might want. There's the old windmills, there's water mills, there's just so many different things that you can do. You can even do human-powered energy.
Right.
By getting a generator and doing a little bit of bicycling every day, to keep your athletics up in a grid down or collapse situation where you might not be running out to work all the time. Keeping yourself healthy, that can also help generate energy when you need it.
Sure.
And it's not just about passive energies like solar or like wind that you don't have to really do a whole lot with.
Well, so, and I think a lot of people neglect, when they think of solar power, they think it's only for generating electricity. But you can also get those solar ovens that literally will cook in about the same time as your home oven, and yet without any energy at all other than just being placed out into the sun. And they're not very expensive, and you can make your own, actually, if you really know what you're doing. But, cooking with the sun is a way that, and you can cook all kinds of meat and casseroles and all the normal stuff you would think you could put in your oven, and you can actually do it right on your back porch if you learn something about it. So I'm a big proponent of looking at solar cooking because, when you think about cooking, it's an enormous waste of the resource of fire too, right? If you're building a fire in the summertime to cook with, you can actually do that with the sun and not actually have to either waste the resource or be make yourself even more uncomfortable sitting around over a fire while you're trying to cook something. So, right. And I think you have a webinar about solar cooking, don't you?
Yeah, we actually did that. I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a lot of those types of things, too, that you wouldn't normally think of as far as how you would use your energy supply.
Right.
Cooking with the sun's a perfect example of that.
What when you do these seminars, are these available to anybody, or are they limited to only subscribers, or how do they work?
They're open to everybody, but the key is to get on our list so that we can let you know when they come out. Typically, we let people know about 2 days before that we do the webinars, just because if you let them know too long in advance, they'll forget about it.
So they have to sign up for these under the Survival and Preparedness News button there?
Yep, you can do that. Another way that you can do it, we also have this really great promotion that we're running. We don't run it all the time, but
hang on one second. We got a commercial that's going to break on us, and I apologize. But when we come back, let's talk. Let's make sure our listeners know how to get in touch with you on this stuff, because I think it's really important. Hang on one second. Folks, we'll be right back.
We believe the better the ingredients, the better the taste to bring to you the greatest tasting pastries possible. At Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, we use organic, locally sourced, and natural ingredients of the highest quality. Every item is handcrafted and baked fresh for you each and every day. Visit Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, number 2 Evans Arcade on the Courthouse Square in downtown West Plains. Or call ahead 255-2253. Be sure to like and follow Chantilly's Artisan Bakery on Facebook.
The best shows in Branson are now playing at the Americana Theater. Don't miss 3 Redneck Tenors, Branson's new smash hit, down-home laughs, and big city voices. It's a hilarious musical adventure that you just have to see. Also at the Americana Theater, Todd Oliver and his Talking Dogs. That's right, Talking Dogs. Hilarious comedy, great music, and family fun. A top 10 finalist on America's Got Talent, make sure to see Todd Oliver and Friends. If you want to rock and roll, check out Joseph Hall's Elvis Rock and Remember tribute. Joseph Hall will blow you away as Elvis, and his band is absolutely smoking. For you early birds, wake up with Cassandra and Friends. She plays at 10 a.m. with Branson's largest live band. Enjoy Cassandra's stunning voice and great comedy as well. The best shows in Branson are at the Americana Theater. Visit theamericanatheater.com for more information. That's theamericanatheater.com. in Branson, Missouri.
Volunteers are at the core of the American Cancer Society's mission to eliminate cancer. Thank you to our volunteers who make a difference in the fight against cancer. Volunteer your time and talent today. Visit cancer.org or call 1-800-227-2345 to find out how you can volunteer with the American Cancer Society. That's 1-800-227-2345.
Okay, we're back. We've got George Shepard on with us this morning, the publisher and the founder of both Survivalist magazine, which can be found at survivalist.com, and also the Republic magazine, which can be found at republicmagazine.com. George, could you do me a favor and give we have a lot of listeners in here because we're in rural Missouri. We have a lot of listeners who actually don't have web access, either by choice or sometimes necessity, because there's just none around. Can we give them a phone number that they can call?
Sure, absolutely. We've got a toll-free number. It's 866-437-6570. That's 866-437-6570. And you can talk to either myself or talk to Charles. He's one of our guys here that helps handle any customer service issues you might have. and you can get yourself set up with one of our magazines or just get more information if you need.
Okay, so that's 866-437-6570. Did I get that right?
That's right.
Okay, and if you are a listener and you would like to sign up for the Republic newsletter, you can go on to republicmagazine.com, and you can literally just put your name and your email in there, and you'll get a notification of newsletters on when these webinars are available, when how you can subscribe and so forth and so on. And the same on Survivalist magazine. So go to survivalist.com, and you can sign up there for their survival and preparedness news, and it's product reviews, featured articles, community events, video, webinar links, and so forth. And you put your name and your email in there. You'll get an email from them when they're going to have another one of these webinars like this one on how to cook with the sun, and be a perfect opportunity for you to get yourself educated without having to maybe traverse all the way across the country to go do it, right?
Right.
So that phone number again, for those of you who are late grabbing a pen, and if you listen to my show, you ought to know better by now. It's 866-437-6570. That's 866-437-6570. We really work hard here to make sure our listeners are politically active and are active in our own communities. One of the things that we kind of look for is the ability to take our skill sets in our communities, and if this one guy is really good with mechanical devices, or somebody else is good with engineering and that kind of thing, that we're sharing and building a database of who's who in the community, so that in the event that there were any kind of a natural disaster, or otherwise man-made perhaps, that we have an opportunity to kind of know who's who and who's got what skill set, right? It's too late to find that out after after we've reached the point of no return. So do you guys have any kind of a methodology of organizing something like that in the communities?
We do, actually. As part of our digital archive subscription, we have a community, a back-end community. It's kind of like a Facebook, but it's closed, meaning that it's just not open to the world. It's just the people that actually are community members. So we want to keep it at the highest level.
There you go.
Of interaction.
Right.
But you can start groups online. That's how a lot of things start these days. You start a little group online, then you go out to a coffee shop, you meet up, maybe you go to the gun range, meet up or whatever,
sure.
Talk to a few people, and then from there it starts to spread. And the key, like you said, is really knowing who's in your community and getting connected with those people, because you're not going to be able to do it when things fall apart.
Right. Especially if our cell phones don't work or our phones don't work because, we live near the New Madrid Fault, right? I mean, you get a quake in the New Madrid Fault, and I'm telling you right now, no communication system is going to survive that. And, knowing who's who and where they are and how you're going to get to them is going to be crucial in a time of a pinch,
Right.
So, hey, I want to thank you very, very much for taking the time to join us today. I think you've kind of, educated our audience about who you are and what Survivalist Magazine and Republic Magazine do. But also, it's a wealth of knowledge and information for them. And if there's one thing that we push very, very hard here, it's education. So I really want to thank you very much for participating with us this morning.
Absolutely.
I will make sure that I send you some information, and maybe we can work a little closer together in the future as we move forward.
Sounds like a plan.
Thanks so much, George.
Okay, I appreciate it.
You have a great day.
Okay, you too.
Folks, that was George Shepard. He is the founder and the publisher of Survivalist Magazine and also Republic Magazine. Now, you can get to both of these on the web. You can go to survivalist.com. That's survivalist.com. I would encourage you to sign up there for their digital newsletter and make sure that you're aware of all the things that are happening that are fresh and current on a day in and day out basis. And then I would also encourage you to sign up for the Republic magazine and their free newsletter as well. The reason for this is because this is how you stay informed. This is how you become educated. And this is the kind of thing that, if you find a great article or a story that's been posted up there, you can print it off, you can share it with your friends, you can cut and paste it and stick it in an email to go out to a few friends of yours or some family members or somebody you work with. Open up the dialogue and the discussion in your church, in your school, the place where you work. Make sure that you are participating and communicating with all of the others around you so that we're working collectively towards our own self-reliance and self-sufficiency. If we're not doing that, we're missing the boat, because we know that what's coming down the pike is not in our best interest. We know that what's coming down the road is dangerous stuff, and we're either going to be prepared and ready to deal with it, or we're going to be caught short, and then we're going to really wish that we had paid more attention back when we had an opportunity to do so. So I think it's probably one of the most critical aspects of what we're about. And I'm reminded that it's important for us to fight back today, not only politically, but also in other aspects of our lives, so that we're prepared to fight properly. Because no army can fight on an empty stomach. No army can fight without knowledge. No army can fight without intelligence. No army can fight without wisdom. No army can fight without food and water, right? And, I've read this quote to you a number of times before, but I'm going to read it to you again because I think it's critically important. Still, if you will not fight for the right when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight even when your victory will be sure and not too costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance of survival. There may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it is better to perish than live as a slave. That was Winston Churchill, and I have to tell you, I'm kind of torn on Winston Churchill. In some ways, I think he was very wise, and in other ways, I think he was, caught up in this world order nonsense. But I have to tell you, that statement alone says everything that you need to know. And, the British people during World War II found themselves living by this credo. You will fight when you have an opportunity to win without bloodshed. And if you don't do that, you may find it come to a point where the alternative is not available to you, and that you may have to take up arms in the defense of yourself and your family and your nation and your community. You may even have to fight when all of the odds are so stacked against you that you have no chance of winning. But it's more important that you go out fighting than you give in and become a slave. He's not the first guy to think that way. He really isn't. You've heard me say it many, many times before. But Patrick Henry reminded us long before Winston Churchill ever came along. Is your life so dear, or your peace so sweet, that you would purchase it at the price of slavery and chains? I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. And I've got to tell you, folks, we are at the tipping point. This cannot move in a way that's positive for us at this point. We're beyond political salvage. We either are going to have to express how 90 days that will change the world through civil, peaceful disobedience can make us back in a position of leadership for our nation, or we're going to fall. And the evidence is all around you. You don't even have to be remotely situationally aware. All you've got to do is open your mind and your ears and your heart and your mind. Welcome to the new police state, the new state of affairs. This is the new normal. Let me tell you something. I don't buy it. I'm not interested in living that way. I'm not interested in living in abject fear of my government. I'm not. Join us on May 18th. Not next Saturday, but the Saturday after. Please put this on your calendar. I'll be down there speaking. This is going to be held at the West Plains Civic Center from May 18th from 9:30 to mid-afternoon. There'll be a 1-hour break for lunch, but there won't be any food supplied, so bring your own. I'll be there, and also retired Command Sergeant Major Dan Page, retired from the U.S. Army Special Forces and law enforcement. He'll be there. And this is a clarion call to all able-bodied men and women of the community. We're going to talk about the battle that's being waged right now against our military veterans, against the institution of family, against your right to own firearms, against our Constitution and our founding fathers. We're going to talk about how our government is using biometrics and building dossiers and databases to store the information on every American citizen. We're going to learn what we can do to make the change, to bring us back to a position of control. Remember, folks, the United States of America is us. It's not them. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is when good men do nothing. My question to you is, where do you stand today? You can find us at americasvoicenow.org, facebook.com/AmericasVoiceNow, youtube.com/AmericasVoiceNow, and teapartycommunity.com/AmericasVoiceNow. Please keep the faith, keep your spirits high, but be prepared and be awake and aware. We'll see you Monday morning.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is KBMV Birch Tree is the Ozarks best news talk, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. 5 American troops have been killed in action today in southern Afghanistan, Kandahar province. A Defense Department spokeswoman tells Fox their armored vehicle hit a roadside bomb. 32 Americans have been killed in Afghanistan this year. President Obama meets with business leaders in San Jose, Costa Rica this afternoon, then heads back to D.C. He spent 2 days in Mexico, focused on trade and immigration.
On this south-of-the-border goodwill tour, President Obama assured audiences this would be the year for comprehensive immigration reform. He says that's because the current system no longer reflects U.S. values.
Separates families when we should be reuniting them. It's led millions of people to live in the shadows.